All right, we are back live again, and I'm just going to wait just a minute here while I let YouTube catch up with the delay. Hopefully somebody will join us, and if you do, please leave a comment and let me know that you can hear me. I always have that fear. My microphones show they're connected, and they are in my, there it is. YouTube now says I'm live. My microphones are tucked away safely inside my shirt pocket, which seems to work. So I'm just gonna, before I get started, there it goes again, another notification from YouTube. Hey Gary, thank you. Robin, excellent. Good to see that the gang is all here. So I am standing outside of St. Giles. Obviously I'm not inside yet. We're gonna go inside in a minute, but I just wanted to kind of give a heads up here at the beginning of a couple of things. So I have a decent connection out here in the courtyard. I think I'll have an okay connection inside. And I may say this again later if I see that I have a weak connection, but the Prism app continues to record. So if I lose connection, I'm not going to try to go live again. I'll just continue to record, and then I'll upload it later today, and you can see the rest of it. And we'll pretend it's a live stream. So let me just show you a couple of things here. So this is the front of St. Giles. Now, this statue right here is of a politician from, I don't know, the 1800s or something, other than the fact that he donated a lot of money to civic things. He has nothing to do with the church. He's not a church leader. But one of the things you'll see here at the top is a crown-shaped steeple. This is only one of two such steeples in Scotland, and it is the iconic view that you see from all around Edinburgh, is that steeple that looks like a crown. I'll tell you a little more about the cathedral once we get inside. So I'm going to turn the camera back around to me as we walk up, so that I'm not getting all the people who are walking in. So good morning, peaceful girl. All right. So St. Giles is free to enter. I've got a little something in my throat here. I should have had a wee dram of whiskey before I got started. I'll have a wee dram when I get done. It is free to enter, but they do encourage you to make a donation, and they would like the average donation to be £6. Yeah, Robin, you know, I was started to say something about this 5 o'clock shadow. When I was on the Rabbi's tour, I thought I should be presentable, and I shaved every day. And now that I'm just kind of walking around, not so much. So I'm going to shave before I get on the plane tomorrow. But we shall leave a contribution up here. Hey Mom, it's good to have you. Everybody, my mom is here. And I will be coming home tomorrow. So the long flight begins in the morning. So let me just show you here. This is the entryway, obviously.
Sì, prendiamo anche euro, una carta come preferite. La carta va solo fino a 5.
I'm just waiting to get through the door here where people are donating some money. You can do it in cash, you can do it through tap and pay on your phone, however you want to do it. I think I saw a sign inside that said about half of their expenses come from people who are paid for by people who leave donations here. So,
Hello, welcome. You'd like to leave? Oh, thank you very much. It's very kind. Well, thank you so much.
All right, so let's just start right here. Now, there's a lot here in this cathedral that I don't know, okay? Usually these kinds of things are a statement that somebody is buried here, none of whom I know. But if you look above and you see the stained glass, I do not have a first class seat for my flight, I'm sorry. I did book Delta Comfort, so I have a decent seat, but I'm not fighting for first class. I am going to ask. I'm checking a bag on the way home, and I am going to ask if I can get an upgrade, but we'll see. And I'm not going to talk very loud because I'm in a church, but these stained glass windows, these are obviously not original. The church was originally built around 1120 something, I think. And it was a Catholic church, St. Giles, much like St. Francis in Italy. St. Giles, I think, was in France. He was a nobleman by birth, converted to Christianity, to Catholicism, gave up all of his worldly possessions and became a hermit. And he lived in the woods somewhere in France that I can't pronounce. And he had a deer that kept him company. And I believe he was eventually killed trying to protect the deer from hunters, and he was shot with an arrow. That could be apocryphal, but I think that's it. So anyway, the church was built here, and that was like in the 600s, around 700. So in 1120 something, the cathedral was built. It was much smaller than this to start with. It's been added to over time. It has been attacked twice by the British during the Scottish resistance. It's been burned, it's been rebuilt. So it's one of those things that it's a never-ending story for Scotland and England. So let's obviously they do want to protect their church, so no pictures of coffee. One of the things that they have going right now, let's see if I can make sure that I'm getting everything in the camera. One of the things they have going right now is this thing called Edinburgh's First Burghers. These are people that they've done some excavations around the church. They have dug up these bones and they have recreated what they would have looked like. And there are samples of that all around the church. So now they do have sections of it blocked off, like you can't walk out here in the middle where all these seats are over here. But I did a little research on this because I walked through here yesterday. This is a relief of Robert Louis Stevenson. It was done shortly before his death. I think he had tuberculosis. And hey everybody, glad you're here. And so it shows him in bed because he's very ill and he's still writing. This is, I think, maybe the only real monument to Robert Louis Stevenson that is in Edinburgh. There may be one more, but I think I read where there's just one. And so there's some of his quotes from his writing up here and things. And reading about this, the original draft, instead of him holding a pen, showed him holding a cigarette because he was fighting his tuberculosis to the bitter end. And they changed it to him doing some writing. So now one of the things you'll notice, I mean, the architects like Catholic cathedrals or basilicas in Rome, and there's a good reason for that. Well, there's a reason, I don't know how good it is. The reason for that is that when the Protestant Reformation came through and John Knox became pastor of the church here, one of the things they did was take down all of the colorful artifacts, stripped the walls bare, took out the stained glass windows, as was their wont in a very strict Protestantism. And so later some other people came in. I think these stained glass windows were added back in the 1800s. John Knox would have been here in the 1500s. I will just briefly comment on this organ. This organ has 4,000 pipes, which is smaller than the pipe organ at the Ely Cathedral. I think it has 30,000 pipes. But it takes a crew of several people to operate this whenever they're using it. It's not just one person playing an organ. There's a bunch of people involved. So there are little naves, altars around the perimeter. They all have their, they're called aisles here. This is the Holy Blood aisle. I'm not going to step inside to talk because it is reserved for prayer. And since there's nobody here, I can stand here for a minute, but I don't want to desecrate its meaning either. So there's a place here to sit and you can pray and contemplate on Christ and life and those things. As is, now I'm talking very softly, so I'm hoping that you can still hear me. But as is pretty normal with churches of this nature, there is a choir loft, and that choir loft sits here. This church, unlike some, the Mass takes place in the center. So you've got seats over here for the congregation, and you've got seats over here for the congregation. And you will see, we'll look at it closer, but you'll see that the pulpit is over here and the table for communion is here. I've commented on this before in other videos when I've been to churches, so I'll just reiterate it here in case you're new. One of the main differences between Catholicism and Protestantism when it comes to worship is that Catholicism emphasizes the table. It emphasizes communion, that is the Mass. That's what it's all about, is to come and partake of the body and blood of Christ. You know, there's confession and there's a homily and there's some singing and other things of worship, but the main focus is the table. Protestantism moved the focus from the table to the pulpit, and they emphasize the preached word more than communion. So in a lot of Protestant churches today, it's been watered down so much that communion may take place once a year, maybe twice a year. Some of them might do it once a month. I find that to be, I find the preached word to be important, but I find losing the ritual to be a detriment, if that makes any sense. Which is one of the reasons why, let me turn this camera back around, one of the reasons why I think that I have become so enamored with learning more about Catholicism, not because I want to convert, because I don't, but because there is so much that it can teach us that we threw out in Protestantism that is just a real shame. So let's see if there's a name for this aisle. I'm sure it has to do with whoever's laying here. But one of the things I wanted to show you was this thing on the wall. There are several of these around the church at this point. Let me bring this back around here so I try not to concentrate on people too closely. But these are depictions of things. Everybody's way here. Now, I'm pretty sure that it's still closed, which is a real shame. Hey, Phil. Robin, thank you for letting me know. I'm afraid I'm going to have a lot of that, especially when I step into those little aisles, so I'll try to stay out of there. But the Order of the Thistle is like night, still an organization in existence today. It is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful chapel, but it's very rarely ever opened. So anyway, we are at the back of the chapel now, and again, you can see all of these things along the wall to indicate people of nobility who were buried. So I'm going to stand back here so I'm behind everybody who's trying to do that and not bother them. But you can see, again, the table is up here in the middle. All of this beautiful archwork. I can only imagine what this was like originally when it was a Catholic cathedral. I will show you a little, and it's just gorgeous. They do have a gift shop. If you're ever here and want to spend your money, you can do that. In this little chapel here, they've got a whole thing about the people that they have been uncovering. You can sit and watch that. I'm not going to go in there for that, but I have to be careful so that I don't let people run into me here. So we'll come up here closer to where the table is. You can see they've got it roped off here. So this is the table. We've got an area over here for reading. And then I'll just pull this up so you can see the ceiling up here. Now, if you can imagine this entire cathedral decked out in colors like this. Oh my gosh, how beautiful. And then we do have the pulpit here with all of the innate carving. Now, one of the things that, and I don't know if this was original with the church or if it was added later, but one of the things that separates this from something like Ely Cathedral that I went to for my other channel is that at the Ely Cathedral, if this had been part of the original Catholic construction, all of these faces would have been chopped off by the Protestants because we don't have icons. We're stupid sometimes, but it is what it is. And again, I'm not going to go into these aisles now because I know that I will lose the connection. But you can see a little bit in here. And I'll just kind of point this up. These are usually built through donations by particular families who are then buried here. And so, you know, this would be some pretty wealthy people who would add these in. If I remember correctly, I think inside this cathedral there used to be 4 separate sanctuaries that were eventually opened up so that it was just one large one. So this one is closed. We're not going to go in there, obviously. Let's see if we can come around here and get a better picture of the organ from here. Welcome everybody that's coming in late. I appreciate that. Hopefully we still have connection. We're almost to the end, so bear with me. This is, I don't know if that's Eloi, St. Eloi aisle, but it has to do with the gentleman who is buried here. And then again, you can see that they have more about the bodies that they've been uncovering here. And then they do have a statue of John Knox. Now, John Knox was a fire and brimstone preacher. There's no question about that. He believed in living an austere life, total separation from whatever it is that the world was trying to give you. Very, very harsh existence in the Scottish Presbyterian life that came about because of his work. But one of the main things, one of the main contributors that John Knox gave was that he believed that the case through Catholicism, it was the priest who read the Bible. The main people had no business doing that. And so he started a huge, huge push for education. And Edinburgh became sort of the educational capital across all of Europe because of John Knox. And still to this day, I think it holds that distinction. So yeah, not everything was bad. And let me just turn this back around again, and we'll kind of give you a little more look here. All the things that are here, the ceilings are just amazing to me. I need to do some more research on the construction. But then again, here we're back, and again, I'm holding my phone very carefully here. We're back to the ceiling here and the main part of where people worship from now. These are memorials to the fighters across World War I, World War II, and others. And they've got this blocked off. There's evidently nothing of real importance here because it's more like a closet now than much of anything else. I'm going to carefully walk down these stairs right here. And again, all of these things have to do with somebody who has been buried here or memorialized here in some form or fashion. Okay. That is inside St Giles Cathedral. I hope that you have enjoyed this little walk around. A trip to Edinburgh is not complete unless you come here. And like I said, it's right on the Royal Mile. It's like halfway between the castle. It's a little closer to the castle and Holyrood House. It's just like a 5-minute walk from my hotel, which is a good thing because I got halfway up here and realized I'd forgotten my phone in my hotel room. I had to go back and get it before I get ready to do this live stream. That would have been a bad thing. All right. We will, hey Evie, I see you got here, but I'm about to close off, I'm sorry. So anyway, I think we made it through. There was a couple of little glitches where we dropped some signal, but I don't think that it was much, and I won't be uploading a separate version of this. So hope you enjoyed St. Giles, and I am going to go back to enjoying Edinburgh. This will be my last live stream from here. It's good to see you all. It's good to have you all with me. This has been an experiment that's been fun to do. And, you know, tomorrow it's the long trip home. So, bye-bye, everybody.